Meet me. Welcome back, boys, to another Squirrely Hero review. Today we're going to talk about my main man, Inferno Khawazu. The community loved him when he came out, then they soured on him, but I am still a big fan, and I'll tell you why. So as always, we're going to go over his abilities, his builds, a quick PvP showcase, and then we'll go into the summary. So let's get started. Alright, so ML Khawazu's abilities. His S1 at max Mola has a 75% chance to burn for one turn. If he has Vigor, he has a 100% chance to have two burns. So with the Vigor up, this is actually a very powerful ability, right? Like, you guys always make fun of me for saying the S1s are always basic. This one is not basic at all. And on top of that, he has the same soul burn as S10A essentially. He can grant extra turns, and the most important part about that is you can cycle his S2, which we'll talk about in a second. But if you soul burn it, it basically means you could proc his Vigor every turn, right? So S2, Malicus's power. Anytime your team gets AoE'd, it fully cleanses ML Khawazu and activates Blazing Fury. So Blazing Fury is basically Vigor, grants Vigor to the caster for 2 turns. It actually heals him and pushes him as well, and the amount recovered increases proportional to the caster's attack. But the most important part is here. When he has Vigor up, he has increased attack by 30% and 30% more defense, and it cannot be dispelled, which is huge. So basically, he gets tankier, he hits harder, he full cleanses himself, he heals himself. It's absolutely bonkers. Now, as S3, I love this ability. Attacks the enemy with an Inferno, dispelling all buffs with a 100% chance with Max Molas to inflict 2 burn effects for 2 turns. And at the end of the turn, it detonates burn effects. So, sound familiar? It's a lot like Carrots, right? Except the biggest part here, it ignores effect resistance if he has Vigor. So even things with like 200 effect resist like Maid and Ruel, he can just kick them in the face and absolutely one-shot them. And if you brought like a Tagahel's holder, you can, even after he gets granted Vigor, you S1, then you S3, and then if they AoE again, you have another chance to proc Vigor, which is absolutely bonkers, and I'll try to showcase that in the PvP showcase. Let's move on to builds. So, this is my ML Khawazu build. It's the exact same build I used in Legend. Basically, you want him to have high attack, but you don't need so much attack, right? Because, you guys all learned from Carrot that, 4K is enough to typically one-shot most DPSs. So I have him at 4,300 attack. You want a little bit of bulk on him because he is one of those units where they're going to try to kill him right away because he's such a big threat. So I have 1250 defense, around 15k HP, and I have 212 speed. Now you can even use this hero as kind of like an anti-cleaver, right? So if you want to, you can get rid of some of the defensive stats and make him very fast so that that 20% push lets him cut even cleavers. Mine can't do that, he's too slow, but I was mostly drafting him into bruiser versus bruiser comps. Crit chance, crit damage, you don't really need any. Any hero where you don't need crit chance or crit damage is fantastic because they're much easier to gear. And effectiveness, realistically, you might want a little bit, like maybe 10 to 20, because a lot of DPSs just have some effect resist rolls on their gear. And if you have to raw S3 without Vigor, it might be helpful. But in general, hopefully you have Vigor up and then you ignore their effect resistance anyway. He has an attack self-imprint and he's a 4-star, so it's very easy to get. I had a million Khawazus. And that's about it. So my recommended stats are around 4k attack, 1200 defense, at least 13,000 HP, but more if you can spare. I'd say 210 speed plus is the minimum, and the other stats don't matter. In terms of artifacts, I think Border Coin is best in slot because his S2 counts as a non-attack skill, and it gives him at max Border Coin 15% extra attack and speed, so he can turn cycle even faster. And if it stacks up to 3 times, basically you get a free attack buff, although to be honest, most ML Khawazu games won't last that long. If you do not have Border Coin, you can use whatever you want. A lot of people were using Junkyard Dog for that extra burn effect. I think that's kind of unreliable because it's not 100%. Or some people were even using things like Uberius Tooth because, that scales on attack. But in general, I would say use Border Coin. but it really doesn't matter too much. Heck, you could put him on some kind of survivability artifact if you really want to. So if the build's out of the way, let's move on to the showcase. All right, let's start off with a complete nonsense team here. My Carrot and Seedom are just there to give me Taga Hells, and Basar will just S3, and then I'll S1 with him as well. After all, this is a Inferno Khawazu showcase, not a showcase for anyone else. Alright, so we land most of it. Let's start off by kicking T-Surin in the face. So ML Khawazu unleashes his sweet moves. T-Surin explodes, and you know, whatever here, it doesn't matter. Oh, that's a very high HP RB. So we'll do this. Seedom is going ham. And bam, this should proc ML Khawazu's Vigor. Rowana does her S3. But no problem. And then all this junk happens, but we don't care about any of this. Okay, we'll do this just to remove some of these skill nullifiers. Alright, and let's punch DRB. And let's punch him one more time. And then we'll just keep tickling this RB. He should just die. I'm not going to hit him with carrot so he could detonate here. Keep hitting this FCC. Boom, RB gets detonated. Okay, he comes back here, and this is going to give my ML Khawazu a fresh set of Vigor. So let's refresh that. You know what, we'll punch the RB once. And then let's kick the FCC, and this is going to strip the revive buff as well. 16,000 damage. So pretty solid considering that there is no attack buffer on this team, right? We'll just keep... I said I wouldn't use any of her abilities. So let's punch FCC. And let's punch RB. Boom, so the burn damage kills the FCC. ML Khawazu gets pushed up yet again. Now let's kick the Rowana in the face and get rid of her revive as well. Boom, 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 boom. 18,000 damage. So, as you can see, ML Khawazu does a lot of damage. Like, all my other characters there, they literally didn't use any of their abilities, right? Other than Basar's S3. It was mainly just a punching exhibition. Now let's try something else. Alright, now let's try him with an attack buffer. He's gonna have a little less souls this time though, because I'm replacing the Seedom, but with the attack buff he should have bigger damage. These guys are very slow. We don't care about the revive buff, so we're just gonna launch the S3 right away, gather as many souls as possible. Let's do this. Push the team. Alright, we don't have Ignore Effect Resist because there's no Vigor on this team yet. So, let's just punch the Basar. And as before, we're not allowed to S3 with our carrot, so we'll just poke the S1. Now this carrot should proc our ML Khawazu. Boom. Big damage, but ML Khawazu cleanses himself. I guess the attack buff was pretty pointless, right? Because it got removed right away. But whatever, we'll make it work. Alright, so now we have the Ignore Effect Resist goodness, so I think we want ML Ken to survive, so let's punch the carrot first. Get rid of her little debuff dispelling thing, and let's kick her right in the face. Ignores effect resist, carrot explodes, and this is going to push my Inferno Khawazu all over again. Boom. We'll poke this Basar, and then let's do we want to keep the Basar alive for the AoE? Yes. So let's just punch Maid twice. Okay. Stuns my my Inferno Khawazu. He pushes us back. But no big deal. Because Inferno Khawazu is an animal. He resets himself again. Let's just deal with this Basar now. And then we can kick ML Ken in the face. And we do not care about his revive buff. We do not care about his attack buff. He counters me. Boom. But now he explodes. And now all we really have to do is deal with this annoying maid, right? So let's just start punching her in the face multiple times. Carrot, you're still not allowed to do anything useful. And she'll probably resist this because it's a maid, but no big deal. Let's just get some damage out. Boom. And she's dead. Let's try one more. Alright, now let's try him in a random pseudo-cleave setup. So we're just going to bring Crow here for some tank. This is a speed crayon, actually. Goes straight onto ML Khawazu. That's perfectly fine. Let's push up our nice little Opsig here. Finish off this mead. Give the team attack buff. And you're going to find that ML Khawazu does a lot of damage even without the Vigor. So let's just no Vigor here, like I mentioned. And let's just kick this Landy in the face raw. Boom, 16,000 damage. And the Crayon goes down, and it's a wrap. And here, ML Khawazu will get the Vigor. And we're just going to double punch him in the face with the S1. And let's see how much damage that ends up doing with the burn. So we'll just burn here, 2 burns, 4 burns, and let's not do any more damage, just so we can see how hard that hits. Okay, 14,600. So as you can see, ML Khawazu hits very hard, and yeah, he's a pretty solid unit into a lot of comps. Let's move on. Alright, so let's summarize. Inferno Khawazu, is he good? Hell yeah, I think he's a juggernaut. Now, full disclosure, I think I'm in the minority of people who think that. So we all know the story of Inferno Khawazu, right? The preview came out, everyone was super hyped about him, they said his kit looked broken, and then he came out and the community soured on him. People were like, oh, he's actually trash, he's not that usable. And, you know, honestly, I think out of Legend players, I was probably the one who used him the most. I actually like using him a lot. But I might be in the minority, but I'll try and give my own ratings for it. So Arena Offense, I'm going to give him a C. Not because he doesn't work in Arena. Again, a lot of my ratings are just coming down to comparative ratings, right? It's not that you can't use him in Arena Offense. It's just kind of like, why? Like, most of it is just cleaving or AoE damage. Do you really want to sit there and punch people to death one by one? It's just going to take too long and be boring. So C there. Arena Defense, F. I mean, you can use him and kind of deter AoE teams from going. But again, like, the AI is going to be dumb. He's probably just going to end up kicking a G-Purge or something anyway. It just doesn't work, so don't use him on Arena Defense. Guild Wars Offense, I think he's a solid A, because, you know, in a 3v3 format, immediately kicking someone in the face and taking them out of the match, it's pretty big, and I do use him on Guild Wars Offense pretty regularly, especially against teams that have a lot of AoE openers. Basically, just let their opener go, Inferno Khawazu pushes himself up, and he kicks them in the face. You can watch my Guild Wars showcase of him for that. So Guild Wars Offense, very good. Guild Wars Defense, same problem as Arena Defense, just not going to be very good. They'll just bring single target units and completely ignore your Khawazu. I'm just going to give him an F there. Don't use him on Guild Wars Defense. RTA, the most important one, I'm going to give him an A. I think that's probably the highest rating that most, competitive PvPers would give to this unit. I just think he's so strong. Like, against so many drafts, he's so strong. Even on the last day, I picked him several times. The ability to just kick someone in the face and one-shot them, and the fact that he ignores effect resist and can legitimately one-shot Soul Weavers is absolutely huge. Now, I'll tell you why a lot of people were very critical of Infernal Khawazu. It's because of this ability, because they're under this impression that Infernal Khawazu is bad without Vigor. So basically, they say if they draft Infernal Khawazu, just focus him and don't use your S3s. My counter argument to that is imagine there was a hero where their ability said the other team cannot S3 on their first turn. That would be considered busted, right? But that's effectively what this skill does, right? If they S3, someone on their team is going to die, even without attack buff, which is absolutely bonkers. And I use this in a lot of drafts to deter that. And considering how many people say that this hero isn't good, it is interesting to see that a lot of times when I drafted Infernal Khawazu, he was the one that was banned out. So if he's really that bad, why are you going to ban out the unit that sucks, right? People did not want to deal with this. So it just goes to show you how strong that he actually was. And this S3 is just so satisfying when you kick someone in the face. And it hard counters some popular RTA units like T-Surin. Like if you draft FCC T-Surin, you can kick her in the face on turn 1 and she dies immediately. Same thing with LQC. I used him against LQC a lot because even with damage mitigation, the average LQC has around 14 to 16k life. Khawazu would just one-shot her, no attack buff, no vigor, no problem. And if you guys don't believe me, I did a Legend RTA video on Infernal Khawazu specifically where I drafted him every game. And I also uploaded my last day of RTA where I also use him there. So I think he's very strong. Screw the community. I think they're wrong about this one because I love this hero. So anyways, that's my review of Infernal Khawazu. Yeah, if you have him, congratulations, because he's a lot of fun. I do think that his strongest area is RTA and Guild Wars offense and other content. Probably not that important. But if you have him, it's always good to have the heroes, right? It's always good to have the options. So, congrats. So anyways, if you want to see more hero reviews, make sure you, do that crappy YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, whatever. And till next time, peace out, boys.